Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Welcome to Vox Novus, the new voice. Can an exploration of both cutting-edge science and spirituality, along with channeled wisdom, help us attain love, peace, joy, and abundance? May these be combined into a practice that helps us cleanse our consciousness and find higher truths. Returning this week on Vox Novus, Neil Elliott combines all of these and explains the truth of our existence in a factual and engaging way. At age 57, Neil was depressed, anxious, and fearful. Searching desperately for a sliver of hope or a reason to keep going, he found a higher road, or more accurately, it found him. As he traveled that road, he discovered a 7-step process that transformed his life. His website is dneilelliott.com, and he joins me this week to share his path of discovery and book, A Higher Road, a 7-step process to inner peace, joy, love, abundance, and prosperity. Please join me in welcoming back to Vox Novus, Neil Elliott. Welcome back, Neil.
Thanks, Victor. It's such a pleasure to be here, and it's been a while since our last conversation.
Absolutely. It's been 4 years, and I'm glad to have you back and share your story with potentially a new audience. So we'll start by saying, to any outsider, you had an interesting life, a successful career, an amazing wife and family, but at the age of 57, something happened. You hit rock bottom, you felt depressed, anxious, and trapped. What happened when you realized that you were in a dark place?
Well, that's a great question. And, so professional engineer and born in 1960. And, what happened was I kept it all to myself. I didn't share it with my family. I didn't share it with any friends or, consulting buddies or anything. And I tried to sort it through myself. I picked up some books and I did some readings and I, tried to change my mindset and nothing really worked. Ended up that after our house, this beautiful waterfront home we had was on the market for 5 years, it finally sold in November of 2017. My wife, we had an inked deal, and my wife jumped on a plane to go to Toronto, Ontario, Canada to visit family and friends. I sat down. We were in this little 1-bedroom rental apartment in the city. I sat down in the kitchen at this little kitchen table, planned out my suicide, crafted my suicide note. I was totally done. And I planned it out for about 3 months to ensure we could move and me get rid of all the stuff that I accumulated over a lifetime. And then about a week prior to that, some material showed up that promised to liberate me from my thinking if I studied it and followed it. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll give this one last go. If it doesn't work, I can always pull the trigger, so to speak. And if it does work, I'll just keep pushing that date out. And here I am.
And can you share with us the knowledge you gained and the process you used on your own journey to self-awareness?
Absolutely. So this material, and I don't share with people the name of this material, and the reason is because many, many people, and me included, if I had seen this material a year or two earlier, I would have run from it. I wouldn't have looked at it. I had to get to this rock bottom place where I was done with life. This is how it worked for me. So I would be open to receive that material. So this material promised to liberate me. So what I started to do is I started to read it. I didn't tell anybody I was doing this, family, friends, no one. And I just started to read it and do my best to, spend some time meditating on it. And I did it consistently. I did it dogmatically, so to speak. Every day, I'd get up early, I'd work on this material, I'd go through this process, and then I'd go for work for the day. And what happened was unknown to me, unbeknownst to me, and slowly, what started to happen was I started to have a new outlook on life. I had some hope. Now, I didn't change overnight. It took an entire year to go through this transformation. But what I did was I just kept at it, and I kept cycling through this material. It's quite long. It's over 300 pages long. And I just kept cycling through this material and reading it and reading it. But it's constructed in such a way that what it does is it, unbeknownst to the reader, it starts to change your mindset. It starts to change your outlook in life. And it's based in science. It's based in Newtonian physics. It was easy for me to it'd be easy for anybody to understand, but being an engineer, it all made sense to me. It was logical. It was rational. And it just described things about the universe and how life actually works and how we create everything in our life through our thinking and our feeling, and how that actually mechanically works in the universe to bring to you every experience and every event that happens to you. Nothing happens by chance. So what happened was in August, so I started in November 2017, August of 2018, I started to feel this little tingling at the top of my head, and it was about the size of a dime. It felt very strange. It never felt like anything I got before. And I just kept going on this process and feeling that. And then over the course of the next 3 to 4 months, that little tingling went from about the size of a dime to, 3 inches, 4 inches, 5 inches, 6 inches. Today, you could put a bowl over my head and, below my ears, like I used to do bowl cuts, so to speak. That's how big that opening is. And so this tingling started in August. In September, around September, what happened is I started to feel this inflow of energy. And it's the only way I can describe it. Feel this inflow of energy. It would come into my head, might go down one side of my body and up the other side of my body, might reside in my head or my chest or my solar plexus, or it might be in all 3, 4 locations all at once. And I meditated. I started meditating in November for about, 20 minutes every morning. And that gradually, for me, worked up to about an hour and a half. And sometimes it would be, a little over an hour. Sometimes it would be 2 hours, but, pretty much consistently 90 minutes. And that energy would flow into me. It'd start very quickly after I learned how to do this meditation and practice this meditation. It'd do it very quickly. This energy would come in, and it would just reside in me in these various places, or doing all of these movements throughout my entire body for the full 90 minutes. And then in late December 2018, I went into 2 meditations 2 days apart. And I got into my, this comfortable position I got in. I described this in my book, by the way. Got into this comfortable position. And all of a sudden, I was just immediately fully filled and immersed in unconditional love. It was like I was this deep sea diver in the middle of the ocean, just, hanging suspended in water. And everything around me was unconditional love. And I was just full of unconditional love. And I felt non-judged. I felt that, everything I'd done in the past, I was okay with everything. Nothing bothered me. I didn't hold any resentments for anything that happened to me throughout my life that I would have formally blamed somebody else for. I just felt totally loved and cared for. And I came out of that meditation. 2 days later, I had the exact same meditation. And at that point, I knew that what I learned and the process I followed brought me back to my truth. And this is a state of being that we should always be in. We can always be in if we choose it. I just have to know how to do it. Anyway, so that's kind of what happened.
And you described the onset as this tingling sensation. Can you give us a little better description of that?
Well, so the process, so what mechanically happens, and I describe this in my book too. There's material I read before this other material showed up, and and this is all described in my book, and I let people know what that material was if they wanted to follow the same kind of path. It is hard to describe. It's like it's not an unpleasant sensation. It's a pleasant sensation, but it was so foreign to me. It was just, I don't know. It was just like rapid, short, little rapid, like massage. That's maybe what it's like. Feels like this little bubbling in the top of my head about the size of a dime, and it was pleasant. And then as it grew, what's really going on is that you're building new brain cells underneath the skull, the topmost areas of the brain that operate on a higher vibrational frequency. And as that those brain cells operate on this higher vibrational frequency, it's this higher vibrational frequency that causes this sensation of this energy. And
would you describe that? I remember the first time I had an energy healing session many years ago, and what I described it as, I felt as I was receiving unconditional love. Would you call it that also?
I would now, okay. But at the time, I had no concept of that.
Okay.
And it took a while as that grew, and then as I understood that this is what's going on, is that you're making connection with source, whether you call it God, Yahweh, the Tao, the creator, the universal, you can call it whatever you want. But you're making connection with source, which operates at this high vibrational frequency. And that is the state of unconditional love. Mm. And as that energy flows into you, you become filled with it. And it, like I said, it didn't feel like unconditional love because I wasn't immersed in it. It was just flowing through my body, doing this work that I still don't know what work it did, but it was doing, I had faith it was doing good things.
Wonderful.
And it's a remarkable journey. This is a great time to be here, incarnated on this earth at this time. It's an amazing time.
How can someone who is facing a challenging or difficult moment in life open their mind and consider new perspectives about life?
Well, and again, I described this in my book, A Higher Road, but what it took for me was I had read spiritual books, I had read, engineering books, I'd read all kinds of mathematical books, everything, through the 80s, 90s and onward. And although all the spiritual books I read, like Dr. Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, Tony Robbins, all inspirational, and I could quote unquote understand them, intellectually understand them, but didn't really get at what they were getting at because they have to sell to the audience that's going to be receiving them. And so they craft things in a way which enable those books to sell and help help people, and some people may be helped by those kinds of things. But I read them, didn't really connect, didn't really understand. And then what happened was I read a book by one of the 87th employee of Microsoft that left Microsoft after they went public in the 90s. And he wrote a book at the time. And I don't have the name of it off the top of my head, but it's outlined in my book, A Higher Road. But he described consciousness in a way which was new, a different understanding to me, and a new thing. And that combined with a book on epigenetics, and then a book on neuroplasticity, all books that are easy to read and everybody would understand them. Those three things to me gave me the understanding that everything that I thought as good, bad, right, wrong, true, false is really just a belief. Mm. And then the book on epigenetics described for me how we create and manifest illnesses or health in our body directly related to our thinking and our feeling. You think with electrical impulses in the brain, you feel with magnetic impulses in the nervous system. Your thinking is this creative consciousness plan, and your feelings is electromagnetic, and it draws together the energy to bring that creative consciousness plan into visible form as an event, as an experience, as an illness in your body, as good health in your body, whatever it is. And so this book on epigenetics described to me how we either create illnesses in our body or can promote the well-being of our body through our thinking and our feeling. And then the book on neuroplasty really described in a really simple, easy way of how in the 60s up to 1960s, they thought the brain just atrophied as you got older. But in reality, it's very malleable and it's plastic. And you can build new brain cells and you can build new neural pathways. And as you do that, you you override this programmed thinking and mindset you have to create new neural pathways in your brain that allow you to adopt different beliefs and different things and do different things with your body. So those three things together describe to me that everything I thought, right, wrong, good, bad, true, false, is really just a belief. And those beliefs that you have in this repetitive thinking can either promote well-being to your health or cause illnesses. And you have the ability to rewire your brain, so to speak, to think differently. So those three things together came to me as, okay, well then, if all these things that I'm thinking is right or wrong, good, bad, true or false, is only a belief, that means I can change it. The impetus for that change is I'd like to promote well-being, health, and happiness and joy and peace and love in my life versus this miserable life I have. And the rewiring of the brain is, yeah, okay, well, physically, we know this actually can happen.
And your experience led to you writing your book, A Higher Road, Cleanse Your Consciousness to Transcend the Ego and Ascend Spirituality. What would you say was your inspiration to share this with the world?
After a couple of years of really getting solid and understanding and getting to a point where I was willing to share it and felt like that belief, that faith was unshakable, then I decided that there's probably many people that are in similar situations to mine, and they might not have all the pieces to put together that would help them create a new life. And so I thought if I shared my experience, that it could be helpful to people that are looking, that are searching, that would like to actually have a better life than they're currently experiencing.
And can anyone at any age apply the key concepts of your book?
100%. All it takes is the openness to do it, and then the persistence and the willingness to do the work.
Please walk us through the 7 steps of Higher Road.
Well, first of all, what I do is I stretch your understanding of what consciousness is, and I bring everybody. So in my book, it starts off as a memoir, and then it gets into some science, not in a real heavy way. Everybody would understand this, but through this book, through this section on the consciousness, I get everybody up to the same understanding. So we all have the same understanding what consciousness is. And then I share a near-death experience that I read from another author that described what she experienced when she was in this coma that made sense to me. And it was all backed up with medical. There's a woman who, at age 46, after suffering from 5 years of this very aggressive cancer with tumors in her body from her waist to her head, fell into a coma, and they rushed her to the hospital. They told her family she wasn't going to make it through the night. And the next day, she woke up and she told everybody that she was going to be totally fine. And within 2 weeks, they couldn't find a trace of cancer in her body. And her book is about what she experienced in this 24-hour period when she was in her coma. And it described her experience, gave me a new perception of what consciousness is. And then what I do is I share this compendium of material that I offer people for free if they want to do this stuff that I did. That it's that blueprint material that showed up for me that I cycled through for a year that actually describes what consciousness really is in this tangible way and gives you a new perspective of life and why we're here and where we come from and where we return to after death. And it's done with such clear and magnificent writing, really good writing, and really understandable in tangible ways. And then the third step is a reflection step. And if you're going to start this journey, you'll go through this material. But the third step is to reflect on your life, and you're going to write yourself a letter. You're going to be given some instructions how to do this. And you're really going to be honest with yourself, and you're going to write how you really feel about life. And this is not a letter that you're going to show anybody or share with anybody or share with a god. This is for you. And this is a benchmarking exercise, really. It's where you really feel about life and about things. And then you're going to document it. You're going to seal it. You're going to put it away. And then if you follow this path diligently and persistently and do it dogmatically every day for whatever period of time you choose to do it, you're going to open that letter a year later. And you're going to see these magnificent changes in not only how you feel, but in how you feel about life. Step 4 is this process of cleansing your consciousness of your human mindset. And then step 5 is rebuilding your consciousness to be consistent with where we come from before we're born and where we return to after death. Step 6 is learning this daily meditation required to do this work. And step 7 is really rinse and repeat. You're going to continue to cycle through this process for a year.
Rinse and repeat. I really like that. My guest is D. Neil Elliott. His book, A Higher Road, Cleanse Your Consciousness to Transcend the Ego and Ascend Spiritually. Neil, please share with our listeners where they can get your book and find out more about you and your work.
Yeah, so the book is available globally wherever you can purchase books. Amazon's an easy way to get it. You can learn more about me by going to ahigherroad.com. That points you to my author website and has material on the book. But again, you can purchase the book anywhere books are sold. If you're getting it from a bookstore, you might have to order it. But if you get it through Amazon or the various normal channels like that, typically, delivered within a day or two.
And we'll be back with more of Neil after these words on the Om Times Radio Network.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Back on Vox Novus, my guest this week, D. Neil Elliott, his book, A Higher Road, Cleanse Your Consciousness to Transcend the Ego and Ascend Spiritually. Neil, one of the criticisms of traditional science is the materialistic approach to its understanding of the workings of the universe. How does A Higher Road examine the seeming mutual exclusivity of material science and spirituality?
This material, that's a great question. And this material that I used does a beautiful explanation of this. And so I'll give you some things, but if you want the real deal, you got to, kind of go through this material. But, fundamentally, so Newtonian physics, for example, is all about particles. And, but we know in any piece of matter, be it a particle, a neutron, a proton, that in reality, there is more space than there is anything that's physical. And, science today understands that in reality, it's all energy. And energy somehow comes together, and this is all described in this material that I offer people. Energy somehow comes together that forms electrons and neutrons and brings mass together to what we see as physical elements. And then, kind of life expands from that. But in reality, the only thing that really exists is consciousness awareness, and they can't be separated. If you can't be conscious without awareness, and you can't have awareness without consciousness. And consciousness awareness is really these two opposing impulses, the impulse of the will to move out to create with the purpose to give form to that creation and experience it. And the material that I provide and the process I follow describes all this in such a way that any reader will come to this understanding and this conclusion as you go through this material and you cycle through it.
It's interesting. I don't know if I shared this with you the last time we spoke, but in 1975, I was in the Air Force. I was stationed in Korea. And I would write my mother back here in New York every month, and she would write me back. And I had no reason to think anything was wrong. And one morning, I woke up and I had a voice in my head telling me, call Mom back in New York. She needs to hear from you. And I always responded when I had a message like that, messages that I had since childhood. And I called back to New York. And in those days, for those who were old enough to remember, there were wired telephones with extensions, and you could pick up two phones simultaneously. And I called, and my mother and my sister picked up the phone simultaneously. And I said, Mom, is anything wrong? And my sister goes, oh my God, how did he find out? And it turned out that she was scheduled for major surgery the next day. And the instruction I was given to give her was that the operation would be a complete success. She'd have a rapid recovery. Everything would be just fine. Those were the words she needed to hear from me. Now, you could say it was a psychic experience, but now my understanding has changed a little bit with reading about quantum non-locality and quantum physics. And this concept in quantum non-locality that information in the form of energy can exist in one location and another location far away simultaneously. And I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. And I would add to that, and quantum physics is, that's giving people new understanding of, kind of our universe. And you can use either of these models to go through this and understand this. Is, like people need, humans need something that makes logical sense to them. So, there's many paths to the top of the mountain, but you got to find something that rings true for you. But there's a few basic things that you need to understand, in my opinion. One is that you got to stop your chaotic thinking and go into that silence and stillness of the mind. It takes practice to do that. But the other thing is, you just talked about location. non-locality. And in reality, everything is exactly where you are. We project and visualize that we have to go around the world, that we have to go to the other side of the world. But in reality, everything is exactly where you are. You are creating your world and your experience of the world through your thinking and your feeling. This is the mechanism of the ego to create individuality and to create space and to create planets and stars and solar systems and universes. This is all inside of you. And when I say you, so there's two things here, and there's an important aspect of this that will really help me. We can talk about capital I, the big I of God, and lowercase I, the little I of ego. And so when you're hearing people talk and they use you can be interpreted as either the capital I, the big I of God, or you, the little I of ego. And people, when they're talking, are not being necessarily clear about who they're talking to, and you have to interpret it. And it's really easy to flip into when someone says, for example, you are God, that you think you're talking about the little I of ego, but we're not talking about the little I of ego. And so when I say you are projecting everything out, yes, the ego is projecting it out to make it look like, we have space, we need to travel around the world, that there's these different locations, but the you as God that you are, the God I am, you're the dreamer dreaming the dream. And as the dreamer dreaming the dream, everything is all in one location. There is no location.
And does
that make any sense?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I understand completely, and I concur with you. But does that, in terms of consciousness, what does that mean for us individually and collectively?
It means that we're all one. It means that, there's so many things, but in reality, you are God dreaming a dream, and you are everything that exists already exists. Every version of you in every vibrational frequency already exists in all, the various permutations of everything that unfolds in your life. Your ego is designed to create this human belief system, to project these things that are outside of you so that you have the experiences that you're having and you react the way that you do. And if you stay in low vibrational states, you end up having these miserable, horrible experiences. But, I can tell you after, the situation that I went through where I looked and said, the world is a miserable place, and why would I carry on in this life, experience this miserable place? I created that misery by understanding how all of this works, by understanding my mindset and then working to cleanse my mindset of all of these false beliefs. And this is not an overnight process. It's not a one and a done. It can take many years to do this. But as you go through and you cleanse, like all of the craziness that's going on in the world today, sitting in a theater with a popcorn and some Coke or whatever water that I'm drinking, and I'm just watching the show. I don't get upset. None of this stuff that's going on in the world right now, I'm looking at it and going, oh, I wonder how that's going to play out. Oh, this is going to be really interesting. Oh, there probably needs to be a lot more chaos that's created and misery created in the world for people to finally wake up. And so I'm just watching it and paying attention to how it's playing out. I'm not getting dragged into anything. I don't know if I'm answering your question. I might have veered off on that. Sorry, Victor.
No, you are, and no reason to apologize. And then from that perspective, then, what you're saying is, in your place right now, where you're operating from and observing the world, you have no fear.
I have no fear. Now, there's things I still fear, which are things that are connected to my past beliefs of this human mindset that I had. that I have, and I still have because I'm still shedding some of the stuff. But these are things that are very personal to me. Like I have some phobias. It makes no logical sense I fear them. It makes no God I am sense that I fear them. And I keep getting messages. I'm fine. So now what happens when I have a phobic reaction to something? I actually go inside and say and ask, am I safe? And I will get an immediate answer. You are safe. You're protected. You're looked after. Go forward. Everything is fine. And then my task in this human form is to trust that, believe it, and move forward and not fall into, I got to wash my hands 26 times or I've got to avoid X, Y, Z. I don't always manage to follow that along because I still have this deep-seated fear that still needs to be experienced, still needs to be uncovered, still needs to be released.
I had a wonderful spiritual teacher when I attended the New Seminary of New York, an interfaith seminary back in the 1990s. And the teaching he shared was, everything is unfolding in divine order. We may not see it. We may not recognize it. Things may be distressful to us or hateful to us. But ultimately, if we look with spiritual eyes rather than human eyes, we'll recognize that there's a purpose for everything that takes place. Do you subscribe to that?
Oh, 100%. Yep, I concur with that. Absolutely. There's always a purpose to everything. And it's so I know all of that. That doesn't mean that I've managed to transcend it all yet.
Right.
But I tell you, I am miles from where I was before.
Absolutely.
Miles.
Tell us about the letters, how they came to be, and the profound effect they had on your path.
So the letters themselves, they were channeled in around the year 2000 over a 4 or 5 year period. And then there was 3 messages, 2007, 2010, and 2014. And they are a description of, what happened to Christ, to Jesus, the one known as Jesus back in, 2,000 years ago, and what he really experienced in the desert. And it was his 40 days and 40 nights, and he describes this beautifully in the letters. And when I say him, I'm referring now to Jesus, because the Christ actually, because the Christ actually communicated this material, but it describes it in a way that will make sense to people that can understand science. And he talks a lot about, initially, as he's describing his 40 days. So his 40 days in the desert was really just an inner cleansing of his human belief system and his consciousness. And it happened in a way that I think if it happened to anybody else, they would be totally where he was. He was the kind of person that when he was fully cleansed, and then he's making this connection with Source, with the universal, with God. If he was given a message, he learned fast and he adopted that learning. So he changed very quickly. Most of us, we get the message, we get the understanding, but it takes longer for us to change.
How may listeners and prospective readers access the letters?
It's hard to, I've had a lot of requests for this material after, say in 1,000 books sold, probably half the people request the letters. So, I don't know. I can't speak to anything other than that, just whatever requests come to me.
How do we create for ourselves every experience and every tomorrow, both the ones we enjoy and the ones we merely endure?
Okay, so there's 2 things that we need to talk about. So first off is that, again, your thinking is this creative consciousness plan. It is the will to move out and create. And your feelings, whether they are vengeful, hateful, mean feelings, or whether loving and kind feelings, is an act of electromagnetism. So it is the act of the magnetism to either push away all that we don't like, to reject, to repel, or to attract to us and bond with things. So your thinking, you put out this creative consciousness plan, this blueprint, and your feelings will magnetize to that blueprint whatever it is that you keep repetitively thinking about, consciously and subconsciously. And then this shows up when it builds up enough magnetic attraction, it will bring a like event or like experience into your life. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is that you create time and you label it past, present, or future. And when I say you, now I'm talking about the big I of God that has been, so you come from, as the big I of God, you come from these blindingly fast energies to thought, to light, to body mass. You've slowed down the vibrational frequency to create what we experience as form, we think is solid, but really these are just images. Everything that you see that is around you, you are projecting that outside of yourself, you being the God, or projecting that outside of yourself and experiencing it as separate from you. And in reality, we're all one. Mm. And so when you talk about past, there is no past, there is no future. There is only the moment of now. Mm. And so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
So, where is the past?
In my memory.
Very good. And so it's your remembering of it, or your reading about it. The where is in your mind as you recall it. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So where is the future?
In my projection.
Yep. Same place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then, what is the past?
Collective memory.
All right. So to understand the what of time, you have to understand how time works in truth. So when do you think about the past?
When I remember family members who have transitioned, when I remember experiences that were both enjoyable and also painful.
Oh, okay. But the question is, when do you think about the past? So when do you actually physically, mentally think about the past?
When something stimulates it.
So you do this in the now moment, right?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay. So when do all past thoughts occur?
In the now.
Whenever you recall them, right?
Right.
And they always occur in the now. They always occur in the present moment.
Yes.
So the past is only a thought, and it only occurs in the now moment. And you will start to realize that when you understand this, you'll start to realize that time is only a thought within your mind. You create and label it past, present, or future. Everything that exists already exists. And all you're doing is going from moment to now, moment to now, moment to now, and you are creating everything in your experience. And by you, I mean the you of God, that is utilizing the will of the ego to create everything that your ego wants to experience in that moment. Mm. You think it's in the past, you think it's in the future, but those are only thoughts. Mm. Everything, the library, the movies, the car, the buildings, the people outside of you, the tables, the objects, everything you create. You project them in your mind, you project them so they look outside of yourself, and you believe, as an ego, you believe it's outside of you and that it's real and that it's solid body mass or solid form or air or plants or animals. It's like, another way to describe this is like, this is a movie. And, if you take an old film strip where, 28 frames a second, every frame is an individual photo, and you pass it through a projector so it looks like you have movement. This is the same thing. You're projecting everything outside yourself. Everything already exists. It's already there, all there on the film strip. The hundreds of feet of film strip. It's all there. Everything, every combination, every permutation of you in all the various varying frequencies of vibration, from the very high frequencies of the portals of the edge of the universal divide between activity and movement and creation, and the silence and stillness of the equilibrium of God, I am, down to the very low and ponderous levels beyond what we experience here on Earth. Everything already exists in the now moment. And what you are doing is you are attracting to you with your thinking whichever version that your ego wishes to experience.
So to share your analogy, we should spend life with a popcorn and a beverage, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
My guest is D. Neil Elliott. His book, A Higher Road, Cleanse Your Consciousness to Transcend the Ego and Ascend Spirituality. We'll be back with more of Neil after these words on the Om Times Radio Network.
Humanity Healing International is a small nonprofit with a big dream. Since 2007, HHI has been working tirelessly to bring help to communities with little or no hope. Our projects are not broad mandates, nor are they overnight solutions, but they bring the reassurance that no one is alone and that someone cares. To learn more, please visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio. Back on Vox Novus, my guest this week, D. Neil Elliott. His book, A Higher Road, Cleanse Your Consciousness to Transcend the Ego and Ascend Spiritually. Neil, what lessons did you learn about the power of intention?
Oh, wow. What a great question. So your intention will draw together these particles of energy to create this like event or like experience that you intend to create. Now, the difference is, for me, that I needed to sort through, is that I might be thinking, oh man, I'd really like XYZ, or I'd really want to experience XYZ. But in reality, my subconscious thinking and my repetitive thinking of that's never going to happen. Oh, it's, this will probably happen instead. And it's that repetitive undermining of, good intention or a desired thing. It's all that undermining. Those are the things you think about most. Those are the things you put your energy and focus on. And those are the things that end up manifesting in your life. And so as you cleanse all this human belief system that you have, as you work to cleanse all of these things, everything is just an experience. You're here to experience. You're here to experience this thing, these things that come at you that seem to come from nowhere. Everything comes for a reason. Everything is designed to help you move along your path of expansion and development. And so when when something comes to you and you like it or you hate it, you wish it didn't happen to you, if you can just feel that feeling and don't hang on to it and let it pass through you, then you'll come to this inner peace and joy. You will, that's why I'm feeling like that. Oh, wow, isn't that interesting? And you look at it in an entirely different way. And then your intention, you can keep your intentions clean, so to speak, if you will, and you don't get undermined with them. But the question that has come up for me lately is, what do I really desire? What is my real intended purpose here? And we have an intended purpose, and everybody has one, but we don't necessarily get clear on it. And I've come to a conclusion for myself. So I'm clear about what my intended purpose is now, and I'm working on that.
And your intended purpose is sharing this message, isn't it?
Well, that's one of them. But, my intended purpose for myself is to actually, to merge back into the oneness and to be the Christ while I am here.
Wonderful. Wonderful. There's an old expression, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. The books that came to you, was that your readiness to receive them?
Yes, 100%. I didn't know I was ready to receive them. I didn't even know about them. They just showed up.
And that's something that we should all look for in our lives, this readiness to find new answers.
Yes, absolutely. And, I can tell you from experience that when you are locked into the human belief system and you might not be having, a good time with life, and it doesn't matter how much money you have, whether I didn't have a lot of money, but it really didn't matter. I could have had millions of dollars. I would have been in the same situation. I might have been having that situation in a more comfortable location with more things around me. But that event, those experiences will still come to me. And we know this from, just reading the news and seeing what's happening is, there's multimillionaires and billionaires that have a miserable existence, even though they're surrounded by luxury. And there's people on the street that are joyful and happy. Not what's outside you, it's what you do with it.
There was an old song that they used to sing at the seminary, "It's in every one of us to be wise."
Truer words have not been spoken.
How may our listeners and potential readers of A Higher Road recognize that they are ready?
You will know you're ready. If you went through a higher road and it made sense to you and you started to follow it, you will know if you're ready because you'll stick with it and you'll go through the process, or you may veer off it. And either is totally okay. You are here to experience. You are exactly where you need to be in every moment of every experience to have the experience that your soul wants to have the experience that your I am God presence wants to have. And so there's no right or wrong. There's your path. But you can choose. You get on this path. So it's like, imagine you're boarding a train. You're doing this train journey from A to B. And as you're going along in the train, you get this glimpse of verdant valleys and interesting cities, and you get off the train and you go through all the highways and byways exploring that city. You cannot then board the original train. When you decide to get back on the train, you're going to be on a new train going to whatever destination it is. And all of the things that you collected while you were out enjoying these other experiences in this city or these valleys, you may have created a bunch of negative things that you need to then cleanse from your consciousness, in addition to what you were originally cleansing. There's nothing wrong with it. Just makes your journey a little longer and a little more varied.
Absolutely. What lesson would you like readers to take away from A Higher Road?
No matter where you are, whether you are ill or healthy, happy, depressed, poor or wealthy, you can change your life right where you are. You just need the right tools, the right information, and then the willingness to make it happen.
Absolutely. My guest, D. Neil Elliott, his book, A Higher Road, Cleanse Your Consciousness to Transcend the Ego and Ascend Spiritually. Neil, one more time, please share with our listeners where they can get your wonderful book and find out more about you.
If you go to a website, it's a pointer to my author website, ahigherroad.com. That'll take you to the website. Book is available globally wherever you buy books. And you can get it in electronic version or in paperback or hardcover.
And what do you offer? You mentioned that sometimes readers reach out to you. What do you offer those readers?
So when those readers go through my book, I offer this blueprint material to them. When they get to the point and they decide they would like to go through that material, then they reach out to me and I will send them that material for free.
Wonderful. Neil, thank you so much for coming back and sharing this really important message, especially in our world as it is today.
Thank you so much, Victor. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you, and I wish you all the best. Love and light to you, my friend.
Thank you, and the same to you, sir. And thank you for joining us on Vox Novus. I'm Victor, the Voice Furman. Have a wonderful week.